Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Findley and today we are going to be talking about travel photography. Travel photography is the act of photographing whilst travelling, with the intention to capture the places visited and the experiences held. Travel photography can be fluid across many different genres of photography, from documentary to landscape to wildlife, adventure, portrait, street, and even architectural photography. But to me, travel photography is seeking to simplify the complex beauty of our world by capturing sensory experiences and turning them into moments. The best way to get started in travel photography is to simply just begin. Taking the first step doesn't have to involve traveling to far-flung destinations. Instead, it's about attuning your attention to the beauty of what is around you. Whether it is capturing the big scene at your local park, maybe it's a native wildlife, or perhaps you want to focus on the macro details like the leaves, the bugs, the morning dew. Or simply, it's taking notice of light and how it affects everything, and then starting to research trips and the best time of day to be at your chosen destination. It's about falling in love with the art of photography. A few questions to consider in the beginning stages of conceptualizing or moodboarding your photography are: what is the subject of your shoot? And what is the best time of day that captures the emotions that you are trying to convey? For example, a dreamy landscape. Maybe you're looking for the soft palette of the golden hours of sunrise and sunset. Or perhaps you're looking to photograph a moody scene, so blue hour, overcast, in the rain or big storm clouds. Maybe it's the bold scene of high noon or underwater photography. Once you've considered the optimal time of day, it is best then to start planning out. What lens or lenses do you need to photograph the scene? My go-to lens is a 24-70 f2.8. This lens is extremely versatile when it comes to travel photography. A budget-friendly lens that would be good is any kit lens that comes with your camera, or perhaps it's a nifty 50, which is a very reasonably priced 50mm f1.8. Then you need to consider, how long does it take for you to arrive or return from your destination? And how long do you estimate that you'll need to be there in order to capture the scene? What other equipment is required? For example, do you need a tripod, spare batteries, memory cards, wet weather gear for yourself and for your camera? Perhaps a polarizer or an ND filter. Maybe you need a drone. Do you need any other props or creative tools to bring your story to life? Do you need a permit of any kind to be there, including a drone permit? And do you need to update your first aid or add to your safety gear? These might seem like obvious questions to ask yourself, but having a checklist and having a plan reduces the chance of anything going astray, and then it also fosters your creativity. Knowing your location is very important for your safety. Scouting the location where possible around the time of day that you plan to create helps you plan out all the potentials, whilst leaving room for the unknown to unfold. If you can't physically be there, Google Earth has been a very useful way to location scout over the years, and social media can be a wonderful tool in assessing the current conditions at your certain location. Bring the right layers of clothing, and yes, even in the summertime. The right equipment, including first aid and safety gear, so then you can enjoy all the splendors of travel photography. Travel photography and the art of storytelling is one of the easiest ways to connect with your subject and with your audience. The most important piece of information or advice that I can offer you is to truly think about why you are picking up the camera and what you are attracted to capture, and then let your creativity flow. Explore the scene and then think about pressing the shutter. Slowing down and immersing yourself in the moment will really help you to develop your personal travel photography style. Remember that practicing and time spent in the field will help you hone in on your craft. Falling in love with light and learning about the science of colour are useful elements to help you further develop the emotion in your imagery. A lot of professional travel photographers will focus their body of work around golden light, which is pre-sunset or post-sunrise, when the sun is at a low angle, casting golden light across your scene and/or subject. Golden hour and golden light can create positive and inspirational, dreamy and nostalgic scenes. When I'm creating in golden light, I like to keep my aperture wide open to let as much light in as possible and create that extra dreamy bokeh image. If I want to incorporate the sun star in my image, I will stop down my aperture somewhere between f11 to f16, depending on the lens I'm working with, which is normally a 24-70 or a 16-35. Another popular time for travel photography is called blue hour. That is pre-dawn or at dusk, when the sun's position is just below the horizon, but night hasn't fallen yet or morning hasn't begun. The deep tones of blue hour can be used to create a sense of serenity, peace, and even melancholy. When I'm creating at blue hour, and if I don't have a tripod handy, I will increase my ISO to around 400 in order to maintain a sharp image as the available light decreases. If I do have a tripod handy, then I will begin to experiment with slower shutter speeds, as it is a great way to explore the creative process at any location. Not only are golden hour and blue hour times of day which are less busy with tourists, but the emotional connection with the contrast and deepness of the scene will add to your storytelling. But also, don't be afraid to shoot at high noon, which is midday, and experiment with all different types of light. The harsh shadows from the overhead sun can make for some compelling imagery, particularly when you're photographing tropical places. In a fast-paced digital society with access to unlimited images a day, it's really important to follow your own curiosity and to be unique. And yes, sometimes you may turn up at the famous Roy's Peak on the South Island of New Zealand, and after hours of hiking, you'll find a queue of people lining up to take the exact same photo. We've seen this with places like the Matterhorn in Switzerland, at Tunnel View in Yosemite National Park, or the temples of Angkor in Cambodia. But remember that your vision is important. Your uniqueness and your way of seeing the world is what we want to see. It doesn't have to be complicated. By trying a fresh perspective, say using a different lens to the one that you normally would, or maybe focusing in on the smaller details, you can really bring a unique vision to a popular travel spot. Some of the best travel photos that I have had the pleasure of viewing are not the same view that I've seen online thousands of times. It's often the unique perspective and the storytelling that really captivates me. A common question that I get asked is, but how do you take photos with no one in it? And the answer is simply just choosing the time of day appropriately. A lot of what I do as a travel photographer is researching the best time of day for the location and the axis of the sun, moon, or stars, and then how I can effectively create the image that I have conceptualized without the crowds. Patience, perseverance, and practice. The best camera you have is the one that you know how to use, and that is simply because when it comes to travel photography, moments unfold in front of you. And as much as it is important to learn the exposure triangle and understand how the shutter, aperture, and ISO work together, it's important to learn about your histogram and also how to read your electronic viewfinder. But if you want the most out of editing your photos, then I suggest making the switch from JPEG to RAW. And if you're still learning, don't be afraid to shoot in aperture or shutter priority mode. Selecting either of these modes will enable you to focus on the outcome of the image. By reflecting and reviewing your settings later, you can then begin to understand what worked. For example, maybe it was the fast shutter speed that freezes the scene, or the wide open aperture which created a depth of field in your portraiture photography. Perhaps it was the slow shutter speed that created motion blur or movement, or stopping down your aperture to ensure that the entire landscape is sharp. One of my favorite mindsets to teach is change your lens, change your perspective. I also believe that it can be a lesson across multiple lenses of life and not just about photography. However, knowing the rules of photography will help you in your ability to tell a story, as much as the lens in which you choose to capture the scene. Having a different focal length can aid in your storytelling capabilities whilst you're on the road. A 50mm is the closest to the human eye's view and a wonderful travel portraiture lens. If you wanted to capture the grandeur of the natural landscape, then I would suggest a wide-angle lens, anywhere from 14mm to 35mm. Those wide angles can also be a great lens when you're learning astrophotography too. The 24-70 is my go-to lens because it allows an element of wide-angle portraiture and enters telephoto lengths as well. The 70-200 is a versatile lens when adding compression to your images, for example, the layers of mountains, and it can also be used as a wonderful portrait lens as well. Focal lengths anywhere from 100 to 600 are great for wildlife and also landscape when you're wanting to add further compression in your travel images. When beginning with travel photography, ultimately you just want to practice as much as possible. By adapting quickly when the dynamic scene unfolds in real time, you'll know exactly what settings or what lens you want to use to capture that moment. And if that moment happens whilst the smartphone is in your hands, don't be afraid to use it. Lightroom has been my go-to editing software for over a decade, with a very user-friendly interface for all your photography needs and your color grading needs. Lightroom allows you to take your images to the next creative level. Remember, to get the most out of your digital images, you must always shoot in a RAW format. In Lightroom, you can make adjustments to the crop of an image, level a horizon, remove unwanted center spots, fine-tune details with the brush and/or the gradient tool. And you can even apply presets for a unique look. From learning how to change the white balance, to sharpening an image or removing an unwanted object, Lightroom can really elevate your creativity to that next level. Travel photography is about capturing the moments on a micro and a macro scale. But be in those moments and embrace your travel experience. Most importantly, it's about having fun and being respectful to others and to nature. So get out there and start practicing your travel photography.